Hey guys, good evening. Welcome to this discussion on entrepreneurship in engineering. First, I just want to say this has come to us in a really tight timeline, and we actually decided to. We had a discussion with Professor Betty there on Monday regarding entrepreneurship, bringing entrepreneurship into engineering. We just had these 3 days to put this all together. Sorry if anybody has anything excluded, but really try to include as many people in here as possible. I believe that in several years' time, Waterloo will not only retain its title as the most innovative university in Canada, but will take the benchmark for innovation to a complete new level. I envision that Waterloo will be a place where great ideas become great innovations, great projects become great companies, and where great students become great entrepreneurs and leaders of tomorrow. This will be something magical about Waterloo. Just by being here, you will feel empowered to explore your ideas alongside people who share the same passions and dreams. In an atmosphere where the just do it attitude fills the air and drives your every move. This will be a time whenever you say Silicon Valley, you think of Waterloo. When you read the papers about the next big success, you see Waterloo. When you decide that you want to be extraordinary, you come to Waterloo. Like back in the day, when we first brought co-op into post-secondary education, we needed to once again set ourselves apart from the crowd by finding that next big thing. Luckily, it's pretty clear what the next big thing is and the reason why we're up today: entrepreneurship. We need to not only provide infrastructure and incentives to promote entrepreneurship, but also to create and foster a culture of entrepreneurship. We need to inspire, motivate, and guide our students from day one to see the potential in themselves and gain confidence to make a difference and start something big. This will need a complete integration of entrepreneurship into every aspect of Waterloo engineering. It's definitely not going to be an easy process. It will take a lot of sweat and tears. But we're taking the first step, starting right here, right now. Today, we're gathered here to offer our ideas and to voice our strong belief in the power of entrepreneurship to transform Waterloo engineering to be an icon in Canada. So welcome to Waterloo's next big step.
This microphone's about a foot too tall for me, George up here. So I'm just going to go over some of the logistics. We'll get right into our panel discussion. The format for today will be a combination of both panel input up here, along with audience input from the room here. And we also have a live stream online and Twitter feed. So we'll be going back and forth between audience here, online audience, and the panel. Before I get into the rest of the logistics, I'd like to do a quick introduction of our panel members here. Starting at our end, we have Bud Walker, who is the Associate Provost of Students at the University of Waterloo. We then have Mike McCauley. Mike McCauley is a mechatronics grad and founder of Buffer Box, working out of the Community Tech Hub down in Kitchener. We then have Patrick Martinson, and Patrick founded Clear Path Robotics, also a Waterloo engineering grad. We have Evan Goldenberg, a current mechatronics student graduating this semester. We have John Zupanzik, who's an MBET student and also a TA to the Technical Entrepreneurship course here at Waterloo. And finally, we have Lorena, who is Lorena, who I have here from I2E. Project leader with I2E, a new initiative started this semester at Waterloo. So for the logistics here, I have some general discussion questions, but it'll be a very open-ended discussion. I'll direct some of the questions towards the panel to start, and some towards the audience. If anybody has input into any topic, please just raise your hand, and then Doug will direct the microphone your way. Just state your name quickly and program, and then your concise remarks on the topic at hand. So to start off, I'd like to talk about technology transfer. So we had a lot of interest in our Facebook group on how do we transfer some of the great new technologies and research that's happening here at Waterloo into the real world. So the question is, what can we do better at Waterloo to close the gap between research and real world application? And I'd like to start this one off, directed at the panel, and perhaps Mr. Walker, you can lead off on this one.
Well, you come with that. Well, the interesting thing is, when you look at the companies in the area, by the way, I wasn't prepped on this question, so I'm feeling it. When you look at the companies in the area, like RIM or Desire to Learn and Delson and some of these, most of them were developed by undergrads who had an idea that they wanted to turn into a commercial product, as opposed to coming from funded research. So, on top of what Steve just said here, that we have to figure out a way, well, I think we have figured out a way, we have to accelerate the way to not only transfer invention and property and that sort of thing from the research arena, but actually create a research environment for undergrads, because they tend to be the strength of the invention locally. So a lot of things that we're focusing on right now is actually attempting to create a mechanism for undergrads to get resources to do research, to get infrastructure to do research on projects and ideas that they have, that we can then much more quickly convert into an enterprise. So from that standpoint, I think the university's new focus is on innovation coming from your level, as opposed to what it has been for many, many years, innovation coming at the graduate level of platform.
Great, thank you. If we could jump over to Lorena.
So just to give a bit of background, I am an undergraduate in chemical engineering right now. I think with research, I guess I'm glad that we don't, as undergraduate students, we don't really know what our possible research. Yes, we can go online and see what they're researching on, but we don't understand the capability of it and what they're really doing. And there are URAs that a lot of students aren't capitalizing on that opportunity and seeing it as, well, I'm interested in research, so I'm going to take it. But you should have that shift in perspective and look at it as an opportunity to figure out its applications. And we had learned about kind of what our possible for research, and then had discussion on the true applications and how we can work with what we see in workshops, what we think are big problems. I think that discussion needs to be held, and having that lack of knowledge and having that shift in perspective hasn't occurred yet. So that's
You and John, and you.
Yeah, I just got added to this panel a couple minutes ago. So I'm from the MBET program. Our whole program is dedicated to coming up with ideas and then basically building them and then commercializing them. We don't have right now, we don't really have a strong link, or I don't think any link with the undergraduates here. So for students that have ideas and need help commercializing with it, I think what we need to do is we need to get a stronger link between us, so that MBET students can help you commercialize your product. So that's my idea.
Thanks, and open up now to the audience. Anybody have any input on technology transfer, how we can close that gap between research and turning those into real world ideas? One back here. In the black shirt.
I would be great. Well, I'm not sure. This is kind of an umbrella for a lot of ideas, I think. But I think, in my experience, what I saw as being the most effective for kind of fostering all that collaboration is the design symposium. So I can get into a lot more, but basically I think that if that is made a kind of a permanent fixture on campus, that's both promoted online and offline, where it could be something academic, where you are taking, say, design courses, which integrate all the learning, like something that's kind of done every semester or every year, something that people are always kind of keeping in mind. So say, for example, something like within a semester you have 4 courses, and then you have a design course, like all those things can systematically kind of grow together. And one of the biggest problems I saw is that just in general is kind of following up with things. A lot of times there's a project I'm really interested in that I want to, a product that I want to use, that I want to help market, I just want to help any way possible bring in clients. But even after giving my email all the information, there is no good way to follow up on that. I don't want to have to chase after them in order to help them. I should be able to say, if I saw, say, like all the presentations that the design symposium or philosophy presentation, there should be some kind of centralized resource to be able to look at all that, like get a good summary of all that, say the teams, like the products themselves. And yeah, so it's really kind of along those lines. I think the design symposium is the most effective.
Great, that actually leads really well into our next question here. And that is how can our fourth year design projects be better integrated into entrepreneurship? So pretty good. We'll start with Evan on this one and we'll go down to Mike after.
I just had a comment on the last question. I think the main theme is collaboration, because I think the people we have developing new technology and doing research aren't necessarily the ones who are going to really bring it to market and be the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs aren't necessarily people who are going to go and do their masters. And I've been reading Steve Jobs' biography, and I'm really making a connection with Steve and Steve Wozniak was the guy who did the research and knew about the technology, and he wanted to make it open source. And Steve Jobs was the entrepreneur who saw the business side. And had they not collaborated, we would not have Apple. And I think we need to focus on that collaboration of bringing these two different types of people together. And I don't know the best way to do that, but I think that's the core of the problem of bringing technology into the real world.
So actually, Mike raised a really good point there. Before we get into the fourth year projects, I'd like to open it up to the audience. How can we increase that collaboration between professors and students, especially in the undergraduate sense? Back here.
Hello, my name is Nick from Mechatronics. I think in terms of, this also goes into the fourth year design project, but I think that the fourth year design project, many times a lot of students have ideas that start way before fourth year, and I think that at that time that's a better way to start doing the project. However, with most of our times on the campus during school, a lot of our time is bogged down in exams and studies, so that alone really kills a lot of motivation to go on to pursue our goals. In terms of collaboration between the business side and the design side, I think the school needs a centralized point between different faculties and different departments where students can openly join and discuss ideas with each other. And then at that point they can start any project they want, fourth year or whatever. It doesn't have to start in fourth year. They can start whenever they have time and they need it. When an engineer or a developer finds someone in business that can take their idea to the outside world, they can start anytime before fourth year, even in first year. They just come with the mentality that they want to get it done.
Great input, thank you. In the red shirt back here.
Hi, my name is Joan. I'm in fourth year systems design engineering, also doing a concurrent degree in knowledge integration. My first comment would be, yes, fourth year design projects are awesome for entrepreneurship and technology and sort of getting technology to market. A lot of the fourth year design projects we see turn into startups. But one thing that I would like to see is having fourth year design projects that are done by students who are in different disciplines. So right now, all our fourth year design projects are solely systems design engineers or mechatronics engineers, or there are some few projects where we have students from different departments or faculties working together, but the system isn't set up to allow for that because of not necessarily conflicting, but course requirements and objectives that don't align and time schedules that don't align. So I think one of the things that we could do here is if you can convert fourth year design projects into projects that you can work with somebody with a business background or a different engineering specialization or with an architectural background, you could go to market a lot easier because you have different skill sets that you need to go to market.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot here about the collaboration issues. So both from Mike and Joan there, great collaboration is good. Can we have collaboration between faculties, between departments within the faculty, things like that? So I'd like to hear any thoughts on sort of the nuts and bolts of that. How can we actually make that work and have that collaboration happening between, let's say, different engineering departments, or even between business faculties at Laurier or here at Waterloo? Is that Fletcher? Or Professor Fletcher and then Professor Betty?
My name is Ali from the Internet Studies program. Well, basically, I think a lot of it is associated, a lot of the problems associated with, say, risk of entering the market. So if, say, for example, I have an idea, concept for a product, and I can commercialize it potentially, but there's all these marketing costs. I have to find, say, VCs that will speculate on it, and like I have to kind of go through that process as well in terms of gathering resources. A lot of time in terms of incentives and motivation. People will be more motivated to put time into projects or into projects if they think that it has lower risk for them in terms of, say, if it doesn't go anywhere, like they can still do something with it, or not going to lose money for it. What was I saying? Yeah, so basically, I think it's kind of a marketplace of sorts where people can kind of share their skills and actually advertise their skills, so they can kind of network and actually lower the overall cost for entering or for commercializing things. So, for example, I have a great idea, but I'm an idea person, I need money programmers. A lot of that comes up to my networking skills and kind of charisma and all those things. And the big problem I see is that people aren't necessarily very likely to kind of go out there and ask for help necessarily. They want to kind of, most people want to be a part of a project that's already kind of going somewhere. They don't want to necessarily be having, like any project that has an image that without someone who would fail, then it won't be able to gain momentum. So if you're, one thing especially in terms of funding, if that can be somehow crowdsourced, I think that would be very effective. I know one company recently, Alberta that made Pebble, got crowdsourced funding from Kickstarter, and it's like they raised over $300 to $500 kind of thing. And those people who are actually funding it are also potential customers, and they can also help market it. So all these tools that are necessary to grow a company, really through like proper kind of networking, like social networking tools, I think, can actually be done for free. Whereas, say, in Silicon Valley, like say we're comparing us to other kind of entrepreneurial environments, they have much more funding than us. So they can hire, they have the resources to hire firms and to hire kind of marketing, right? But we can avoid the enormous cost or risk associated with entering the market by kind of fostering by actively promoting collaboration and sharing, open sharing of ideas. Because another thing is people are afraid to kind of share their ideas. Sometimes they're afraid to even get help. It's just, yeah, I think those kind of bad habits and that one really broken on.
Great, thank you. I'll go down to Mr. Betty.
It's your day, so I'm just going to be brief. I think in the faculty of engineering, we are discussing a generic 4-year project for 4A and 4B, which will allow students from a mixture of programs to do the 4th-year project and hopefully set up goals which are common for all of you to apply. It is in the process of being enacted in the majors.
Everything sounds pretty amazing thus far. I'd just like to throw something even a little more far-fetched. When we're in 4th year, we all know leading up, like within our 5 years, that we have this 4th-year design project. But why does it have to be within our 4th year? Why can't it be in the 1st year? Why isn't there a time set on it such that we kind of just put it off our mind and think, okay, we need the skills, and then we'll have it in 4th year. But we don't set a time variety of different people because everybody's getting used to the university. It's when you aren't so jaded by all this schoolwork that you kind of think of all the potential and the possibilities that you could do with your degree. So if you start then, and we all have a first year concept course that, you know, is supposed to kind of buff you up to be prepared for the world, whatnot. That's things like learning how to come up with an idea or people that you know you would need can be taught in that course, can be shown in that course. And if you have an idea, you can work on it. You have more time to work on it throughout the 5 years. You have time to gather expertise, you have time to learn what you actually need to know and who you actually need and what skills you actually require. So just putting it out there could be an idea.
Thanks. I'd like to go straight up to Evan here. Scott, who has some comments from our online viewers.
Sure. So I've got a question, a general question for the panel, and also would like input from Eddie as well. So in general, right now, access to the laboratories such as CNC mills and the nano laboratories is pretty much impossible for students, and getting testing machines that are needed for different tests for students is virtually impossible. So how can we change this system so that students can get access and use these type of materials and use these resources?
Do we have any takers from the panel? Patrick?
So a point about that, and specifically with this equipment, is that a lot of it is extremely expensive equipment. So many of those rules are put in there with the good intention of protecting this investment of the university's capital. And there's training that goes into pretty much all these machines, having worked in a few of the different research labs around campus. So I think a part of this should respect that there is quite a lot on the line by just like, this isn't something that you could just have any students have access to some of this equipment. And the other side is that a lot of these professors, if you are willing to find them, are fairly open to the ideas, and many professors are very entrepreneurial in mind and open to listening to ideas if you're willing to take the time and talk to them about it. And in many cases, that's just the difficulty of knowing who's responsible for what equipment. I think that again ties back to not really knowing what some professors are doing with their research and sort of what their interests are. Because beyond just being, in a way, the gatekeepers on some of this equipment, professors, I think, could be viewed as a huge knowledge source. And we definitely used a lot of professors that we talked to when we were first starting our company to bounce ideas off of. And so I think with that attitude, we're taking more often that these people have connections within industry, they have a lot of ideas going on, they have knowledge of a huge array of different technologies, as well as having these different machines that can be useful for developing your products. I think if that information were better advertised to students, you would see a little more uptake of that and a little more of the collaboration that we've been talking about.
So I'd like to jump over to Mike if we can. So Mike is someone that's started a sort of a hard technology-based startup where you have sort of physical prototypes and things like that. What would have helped you when you were in your undergraduate education here in terms of access to labs, facilities, equipment, as we're talking about here?
I think lab space was definitely a limitation for us, and we took the motto of do and ask for forgiveness later if it becomes a problem. And not a lot of students are willing to do that. And I think those are oftentimes the people who are entrepreneurs. You don't necessarily follow all the rules, and you just push and push until something bad happens. If it happens, then you figure out how to deal with it then. So I think a lot of it is if you have the determination to figure out how to do something, you're going to do it. And if you have an idea that you want to try it, you're going to find that professor that's going to want to do it. And I think it almost comes down to encouraging students to chase those ideas that they have and really pursue them and go out and find professors that maybe work in an area that aligns with that idea that they have.
You also don't want to make the obstacles too easy to overcome. Because there is a level of perseverance and tenacity that has to go into this.
I've actually got about 5 or 6 things that I've picked up. Can't hear it all because where the speaker is kind of rattles in my ear a bit, but don't worry about that. I think I picked up the major points. But definitely this notion that we've just been talking about, Dr. Betty is a big idea person on this, and that is finding some way to use the considerable resources that we have for sort of the physical development of prototypes and that sort of thing on campus. And that includes equipment, space, and so forth. So I think that message is already been heard and underway. The other aspect of it, though, too, is once you move beyond that, beyond the need to tinker in say one of the labs here or one of the project rooms here, is the opportunity for us to have incubator space for startups that need fabrication type facilities. Right now, it's fairly easy to provide incubator space for anything to do with software or mobile applications and that sort of thing, because all you really need is a smartphone and a laptop and something over your roof over your head. But that doesn't, and the Buffer Box crew, they're probably a bit of an oddity down at Velocity, because they have a physical product that they have to deal with. So we're actually have heard the rumblings already that what we need to do is provide that type of facility for once a startup actually graduates beyond using facilities here, to actually having a place where they can go and produce their prototypes and whatever. So that's definitely a message that Dr. Betty and Sean and I are in tune on. Linked to some of this stuff, though, is in terms of it's a very good point about not making it too easy, because if you make it too easy, then you don't necessarily get the people who really got their life committed to it. They don't have skin in the game, as it were. But one of the things, though, there's two things that we've determined that students really need to help them kickstart their entrepreneurial activity. And probably the most valuable one is time. And I think a few of you have mentioned the fact that if you had more time to kind of devote to this without jeopardizing your academic activity, that would be great. The other one is money, and because the reality is you need money for certain things. Rather than giving money, which has been a typical pattern in Canadian research, is to give money to a researcher and they produce something, and the person that can make the best research proposal gets the money, sort of thing. The thinking is leaning more towards investment. So we're actually in the process of considering a venture fund that would support student startups at Waterloo, so that if there's a project, and it doesn't have to be a fourth-year project, but if there's a project that has merit, that there may be venture money available for it. And like with all venture money, there are strings attached. And the strings attached are what keep people focused. And so once you start into something and you've got some money that you probably couldn't get most other ways, but it's got commitments attached to it, that I think is a real a catalyst for entrepreneurship. And I think the last couple of things I want to say here is one of the questions earlier on related to how does somebody that is trying to get from zero to a foot in the door, where do they go? And at the moment we don't have an entrepreneurship resource center on campus. That is definitely an item that is in the plans for the Student Success Office. We've made the first step this year with the Student Success Office, but we would like to have a very centralized, a very centrally located resource center, so that we can get the kind of collaboration between the various disciplines that a number of you mentioned, so that the business students, or frankly students that are involved in accounting or in engineering applications or math or science of any kind, where they will link up and be able to connect with one another. And the final thing that that we have to think about is just the nature of the way our the template for our academic programs is set up. Like right now in engineering, there's a very stringent style of co-op, and there's enterprise co-op, and it has a lot of potential that we haven't tapped as yet. The ability for students in co-op, or frankly regular students, to use their work term or off term as an entrepreneurial time where they are confident that they've got some kind of financial resource to apply to their work term that helps them create the entrepreneurial product that they're focused on. So those are some of the things that we've recognized, and we're trying to develop some of those ideas. And tonight, one of the things that we want to extract from your comments is just support or some crystallizing of some of these notions that we've been chatting about ourselves.
Okay, we'll go to the audience here behind you there.
So it sometimes feels that a lot of the resources dedicated to entrepreneurship goes to like velocity and those special areas. And what I think a good idea was the e-co-op option. But like I tried to do that this time, but it didn't work out. But I think if more students have somewhat of an incentive to take it, like say like because we all have to pay our school fees and rent and all that. But like I was just wondering if we say that the student comes up with a proposal, assembles a team, and they have an idea to say like if we can get some project funded with strings attached, of course, but then if our project also gets to a certain point where we have like a clear prototype or like we can somewhat commercialize it, then say like there was an incentive, like we could get our tuition waived for that following term, then I think more students would have the incentive to go for that option.
Okay, go to the back row on Facebook.
In terms of co-op work terms in the PE program, I just want to know if it would be a good idea to include entrepreneurship in the PE program, because it's just professional development. No? Okay.
That's my first one.
But if something like that would be tackled in first year, to get people to start, first year engineering students to start thinking about entrepreneurship in their first work term, because a lot of them, there's like e-co-op, start your own co-op, they have no idea what to do first term, second term. I was wondering if something like that, an entrepreneurship focused, like a lesson to get you understanding how it works and everything, would that be a viable start for more ideas to spawn entrepreneurship?
Good. We're hearing a lot about first year today. We'll come back to first years in a second. I know Evan and John here will be here to get some thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm going to touch on a bunch of things that we've brought up. You mentioned a good point that there's sort of two big things that we need to address here. One is the resources for people who want to do it, who have their idea and have the drive and just need a little bit of help to get there. The second problem is getting people interested in it. How do we get people to develop that entrepreneurial spirit? How do we get people to want to go ahead with these ideas, to move on to the resources that are available to them? And so you mentioned trying to work something in the first year into the PD program that addresses that. One problem I see there is that developing an entrepreneurial spirit, in my mind, isn't something that happens in a rigid, structured environment like a classroom, or I don't think you can take a course on entrepreneurship and wake up the day after your final exam and be like, yes, I want to do it, I have this idea, and I'm going to start a business. And sort of tying into some of the things that Lorena was saying with taking the fourth year project and making it less structured, more open-ended, so that you can sort of develop ideas and work on it over the course of your entire degree. That's providing that open-endedness, that open environment that you can develop an entrepreneurial spirit spirit within, right? And if you can work in a couple degree requirements, but it's not, you have to do it in this finite amount of time, and you have these deliverables, and people are just going to do the deliverables handed in, and nothing has really changed about their attitude. But we were also talking earlier about technology transfer, and you know, University of Waterloo, we're really lucky. We have this great intellectual property policy where anything that you come up with is yours, and you can go out and start a business with that, and you own it, and that's fantastic. But it's a very passive approach to commercialization and entrepreneurship. And it's possible that, you know, we have all this great research going on, all these professors, they might not have that entrepreneurial drive. So they don't go ahead and start their businesses with their commercializable ideas. If we took a more active approach to that, and we actually had people who were, you know, surveying the research that's being done by the professors in their labs, and, you know, picking out the ideas that they really see potential for, and maybe approaching them with, you know, a one-page proposal. You know, this is where I see a market for your IP, for your research. Are you interested in pursuing this further? We can hook you up with people. We're going to be introducing all these great resources, right? Support resources. And you could even introduce that into the undergrad curriculum. So you can set up some sort of degree requirement where, you know, once or twice over the course of your 5 years, you need to do a survey of professors in your department or in your faculty, and you need to, you know, come up with some sort of commercialization plan for something that interested you. One of the research projects that you saw that caught your interest that you thought might actually make a great product in the real world. And, you know, over the course of 5 years, like we have these work term reports that we do on our co-op, you go to professors and you approach them and you say, look, you've got this really cool research and I have this sort of business plan for you if you're interested in pursuing it. And so what you accomplish is you possibly address technology transfer a little bit. You get students thinking from day one about these concepts and these ideas and what's possible and what you can do with an idea. And you give students, you know, a basic business sense, and you work into your curriculum some sort of basic understanding that everyone, whether they're starting a business or not, should have. You know, the basics of how you go about starting a business and funding and being an entrepreneur, which is valuable even if you aren't one. So I think there are things, yeah, but I think one of the key points is that you have to do it in an open-ended fashion. You can't try and work it into a 4-month course with deliverables that you just have to do, because then students are just going to do them and hand them in, and their attitude won't change. And what we need is an attitude change. We need a culture that really encourages this. And then the resources will help. But first you need people who want to do it.
So I teach I'm the teaching assistant for a 4-month course on technical entrepreneurship here. I would actually agree that when you look in the class, there's students that are more motivated, and you're not going to turn students into entrepreneurs over that period of time. I think you come in kind of with the entrepreneurial spirit, or you don't. I know they're talking about opportunities on campus. There's also Bet 300 that's starting next term that you can also look at. There's also various clubs. There's the UW Entrepreneurship Society that you can join that will also help you find other people. In MBET, we have probably the opposite problem that you have. We have people with ideas. Just a personal story. I've got an idea right now, and I need a couple engineers to help me create it. I don't have any resources available to go to you. So, but at the same time, we are a great resource for you. You have students that have spent a year studying the commercialization process to take an idea and actually go, and I mean, funding was something I heard over there. We have an angel, right? We have an angel investor that's in residence with us. I speak to him almost every day. I mean, so we're a great resource is kind of the point I want to make. I think that what we need to do is actually become one of the primary resources on campus to help you out, and we want your help as well. So, I mean, Bud was saying about, you know, I think it was like a center on campus. I mean, we're the Conrad Center of Business, Entrepreneurship, and Technology. We should be a part of that resource, I think. So that's my take on that.
Okay, so I'd like to stay on the topic. have many great programs, Velocity, Embed, etc. And we have today about 100 people between here and online, and a faculty of 5,000. So obviously not every person is going to be an entrepreneur or is interested in that, but I think that there may be many more out there that are sitting here today that have some interest. So I'd like to get thoughts on how we can better inspire these people to have the courage, I guess, to go out there and start something, or at least know what's available. We'll take a question or a comment back here in the red shirt, please.
I think I have two comments. The first one being, what is entrepreneurship? We haven't really talked about what entrepreneurship is yet, and I think that's probably a good thing to talk about because we're trying to encourage it, but what is it in the first place? Because we're in engineering, we always talk about technical entrepreneurship and developing products, but how about social entrepreneurship? What does entrepreneurship look like from the perspective of an arts student? And I think that's also a really, really important question to ask because not all entrepreneurs will be engineers. And I think inherently, what it takes to become an entrepreneur is somebody who is willing to take risks. And our entire curriculum is not set up to promote people to take risks. The entire thing is set up so that you follow the rules, you follow the rubric, you do this to get these marks. And inherently, that sort of steps on the entrepreneurial spirit. It's very hard to go and take risks when you know you won't be rewarded for taking those risks.
So while we're on the topic, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how do we actually change things and overcome those barriers. So what would you like to see happen?
I don't know yet. I will get back to that.
Maybe in the back here, black shirt.
Hi, my name is Anand, and I'm not an engineer, I'm actually in sociology and business. And so if I could just talk about Waterloo. In our department, we're actually told blatantly to stay away from business, which is kind of funny. We're usually told to go to grad school. And so I would like to actually see a change, at least university-wise, because it seems like the faculty itself doesn't want students to go into entrepreneurship. So I'd like to see maybe a top-down approach from the actual university to actually change it.
Thanks, George.
We're talking about the spirit of entrepreneurship. I just want to tell everybody a story about how I became kind of an entrepreneur, how I got the entrepreneur spirit. It wasn't always like this. When I started university, there was me, and then there was entrepreneurs can get away with funding they want. And I don't consider money. I mean, I know there's funding, but really I don't consider myself to be part of the group that almost deserves it, because I'm not confident. I don't know. I see myself as a normal person and entrepreneurs are not so normal. I see myself as a graduate, get a job, retire, enjoy a normal lifestyle. So how did I get here? I'm in mechatronics engineering. So in my head, I always thought mechatronics engineering is industrial robotics. So I did 6 work terms in industrial robotics. And by the end, I don't think it was what I was meant to do. Just because I'm not saying, that's the one thing that I like about co-op. You get to find out what you want and what you don't want. And I really asked myself, is this the right thing for me? And then coincidentally, I went to a conference called CETC. I didn't go because I wanted to be exposed to more stuff, because I went because it's a Saturday. And so this conference is the beginning of my development in my entrepreneurial spirit. Because the people that were speaking at the conference, there were people like me. There were 20-something-year-olds. They don't have a house. They were inspiring you to graduate and live in a dump. And they were literally saying that I am living by myself living on $5 a day. That's what they were trying to inspire. They what we are, us entrepreneurs, is just the same as you guys. You know? So that made me see that entrepreneurship is, I can reach it. It's within my grasp. Hearing people from people that's just like me. So I think we got to encourage students to go to conferences like this, or even to bring conferences to University of Waterloo for entrepreneurs, for us, every student to go. Even if they don't think they're qualified, they will hear from these people and they will think they'll be qualified. And that was the beginning. And then after that, I'm still unsatisfied with my job, with what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. So I looked up how can I start a business. And then what I found is books. The most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. Also, not just novels, not fiction books, like great books like books that inspire you, tell you what you should do with your life. The Magic of Thinking Big, How to Be Friendly and Influence People, 4-Hour Work Week, books like that is full of wisdom, that will guide you in the right path. And I got inspired from these books, and that's what really got the fire out of me to try something. And so what did I try? RIM had a free playbook offer, and so that was the first entrepreneurial experience that I had. It's a free playbook. It's just programming, right? But the incentive is there. You program, make any app, get a free playbook. And so I did. It wasn't a great app, but that is the turning point when I became an entrepreneur. Because I sold that app and I made money, so I now have the experience of making money from my own entrepreneurial spirit. So from that point on, I now starting everything. I'm doing my photography business and trying to build more apps. I went on exchange last year to Switzerland, and I think the most valuable thing from that exchange experience was an open mind. Because with an open mind, I feel that you can connect your engineering talent with so many more opportunities out there. You can see so many doors that you're able to go into. So now I'm taking courses like international development and ecology, and I see places in those courses where I can use my engineering talents to make the world better.
Thank you very much, George. I'd just like to hang on a couple of your points here. So obviously you can see that George is very inspired to be an entrepreneur. So he's sort of at step 2 of the second point, which is how do we get students inspired. I'd like to jump back, let me go down the panel here and just have some quick thoughts on the mechanics, nuts and bolts of that. So what can we actually do systematically to inspire more and more students to become entrepreneurs? We can start with Bud at the end here.
Yeah, one of the students or people your age have a lot of advantages, but you have one disadvantage, and that is your youth. You haven't had a lot of opportunity to experience a number of things where you might see an opportunity. So typically, students tend to, they're familiar with going to class, renting apartments, eating meals, and all that sort of stuff, going to sports and entertainment. So a lot of the entrepreneurial activities of students tend to surround the things they're familiar with. Now, where you folks have a real advantage is through the walk program. And one of the things we probably should really focus on is in first year, is say to students, when you're in your co-op jobs, keep your eyes and ears open. Because if you look around at the companies that you went to, don't just look at the job that you've been hired for. Look around at what the company's doing. Because somebody in math, for example, is never going to get the opportunity to see the process that the paint is made by. And you might actually see some kind of innovative opportunity in that process, but because you're working for, say, a chemical company and so forth, and you would get to see it. So I think one of the things we have to do to spur on the process is inspire students or educate them to take opportunities beyond what He said, you see this room, see all these filing cabinets? Those are all good ideas. Everyone, you put all the filing cabinets, you're a good idea. One of the things you have to realize is you don't necessarily need a new idea to be an entrepreneur. You need the unique ability to make an idea work. And that's what he told me, and I remember to this day. He says, I don't need any good idea. I need people that are going to make these ideas work. And it's kind of embarrassing for me because at the time, let's go back 5 years, they were experimenting with putting milk in plastic bags. And I remember thinking, what a dumb idea. It's going to work, because in my day, milk came in cardboard cartons when I was a kid, I had a glass bottle. And I remember looking at it and thinking, like, get rid of it. It's not going anywhere. And the other thing they were experimenting with was little net mesh bags with vegetables in the grocery store and that sort of thing. And so I learned from that too, because one day, a year or so later, I was in the grocery store and there was a plastic bag full of milk. And my mind wasn't very open at that point. So I think the thing that I think we've got to do is to go on what Steve just said, is we've got to encourage and educate students early on that they've just got to keep their eyes and ears open for opportunities. And then the other thing is, it doesn't have to be an innovative something that is brand new that you've thought of. There are a lot of things that have kicked around, and their time just isn't right until at a certain point in time, the time will be right, and that's when you've got to know that this thing can go, and I'm going to be the one that's going to make it go.
Great, and Mike, any thoughts on the nuts and bolts of how we can inspire that entrepreneurial spirit in students?
Yeah, I mean, just something that came from Bud's points. I think there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's entrepreneurs and there's entrepreneurs. They're the ones who, at every conference you go to, they're talking about ideas, they have a new idea every time you talk to them, but they've never executed on a deal. Don't be an entrepreneur. If you want to be an entrepreneur, do something and execute. That would be my one piece of advice in terms of the stuff that I'm doing. In terms of points for how we kind of get people interested in starting their own ideas, I think we really need to focus in on what Evan said about changing the way that, I don't know what the best mechanism to do this, but because I know there was thought about taking the work term reports out or reducing them, and I may be dating myself already here, but if there was some way to say, no more work term reports, do one or two of these, I don't know, like business plans or a summary of what a particular professor is working on, how that might apply to the real world, and that's what you do during your work term or while you're on campus or something, and you have to do a certain number of those. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think it really bridges the gap between what professors are working on and students not knowing anything about what artists are working on. So I think that's one key thing. Another one is introducing an entrepreneurship option. I think there is some merit to taking courses in entrepreneurship. That's how I first was exposed to it. And I had to seek out those courses and make them work in my schedule. They were not part of my courses. And in one term, I took an extra course so that I could take entrepreneurship. And most students wouldn't do that because you're encouraged not to take extra courses. To me, that was one of the most important courses of my whole undergraduate career. So I think an entrepreneurship option would be a neat thing to explore. The last one is, I think we have the seeds planted for bridging that gap between having this co-op term opportunity and actually creating entrepreneurs out of it. There's e-co-op, there's velocity. I don't know if enough people know about these opportunities. And someone commented earlier about there being a focus on velocity. I hope everyone knows what velocity is and that it's open to anyone. And Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Velocity Venture Fund is open to any student on campus, and if they want to pitch their idea, they can have an opportunity to take advantage of that program. And we're Velocity Venture Fund winners, and none of us were Velocity residents. So I think that's an important point, because it does tie a lot into the resources that are available to anyone. And I don't know, do you have a comment on that, Sean?
I had a couple comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I started Velocity, whatever, back in 2008. I'm the director of the Student Success Office. So what you're saying is correct. What we are trying to do, it started, it still is predominantly focused on digital media.
software, mobile apps, that kind of thing. But one of our goals is to branch out and support entrepreneurship for all technology, and then for non-tech. Somebody mentioned social entrepreneurship. So we realize that's something that needs to be done, and we're working on ways to do that. I was going to say one thing about inspiring, trying to get more students inspired. I think entrepreneurship is an attitude, it's also a culture. So it's something that can be contagious. One of the reasons Velocity started a residence is because of that social aspect to entrepreneurship. The more students you can connect on an interpersonal level, get them talking about ideas, get them meeting each other, get them excited. You mentioned you went to the CUTC conference, that's where you started to get that spirit. So it may sound very simple, but finding mechanisms to get people together like we are today is one of the ways we have to inspire students right from the get-go. So how do we get first-year students out to events, to networking events, to speakers? That's, I think, an important part of it. Exposing the students in an academic realm to courses as well. I mean, if every first-year student was required to take a course in entrepreneurship, I think that would also go a long way as well. That will take some political will internally from all the deans to get that done, but those are the types of things. It's not any one thing. It's going to be a combination of all these things. We've got a residence, we've got a venture fund started, we've got CBET, we've got a lot of pieces, and we have to build on those, I think, as well as add some more to make this go. But there is no other university in Canada that is better for entrepreneurship today, even today, than we are. And we're in the tops in North America, in my mind. I mean, there are Stanford's doing some great things, MIT, but we're right there. And if we put a few more pieces in place, we'll be right there with those top schools in North America.
So I think what Sean said there is how Waterloo is certainly one of the leaders in Canada and possibly in the world in entrepreneurship. I think that's the reason that we were able to get 100 people here in 2 days today. We have the talent here, we have many programs in place, and many of the ideas that we've heard tonight I think will be very positive towards taking that next step and really becoming the #1 entrepreneurial school in North America. I know that Evan and Patrick here are both waiting with more ideas on inspiring students to get into entrepreneurship. So we'll start with Patrick and just finish down the line here.
Well, I just want to emphasize that besides Mike's distinction between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, there are two other types of entrepreneurs to form a successful team. And that is the people who have the ideas and people who actually execute on that. The makers and the idea people. And I think emphasizing that you don't have to be both to be successful in an entrepreneurial team. And it's often better to have some more pragmatic people who are a little more down to earth to contrast the people who have the really big ideas is extremely valuable. Because I know that personally, I wouldn't have had the initiative to have started the company completely on my own. It took being approached by other people who had a really big idea that I was definitely on board with. And after looking at it, starting to think, okay, I can maybe do this, but at least I'm willing to try. But taking that attitude and emphasizing that not all entrepreneurs are the people in the blazers going around selling ideas and talking about getting funding. There are the people who are in the shop and just executing on those ideas. That's still an entrepreneur, and that's an extremely vital part to any successful organization. I think you will find a lot of people have the attitude that fits that personality within engineering, that whether it's being teamed up with people from the MBA program, from a general arts program, or all these other types of entrepreneurs that we've talked about, emphasizing just the desire for people who, if you have ideas, they are the people who want to step up and help execute on those is a very big sort of focus that I don't think you really see right now with what people think of entrepreneurs. And I think what this could tie into very well is the idea that there is a lot of demand for people to execute on different hardware ideas, where if somebody has a hardware idea, if only there was some sort of rapid prototyping team that could make that idea. But we're sitting here right now. All of the guys on all of these teams could execute on all those ideas. It's just that the connection is never made to put those two people together. And I think that is a big emphasis that could help a lot of ideas develop.
Thank you, Patrick. You're
Yeah, so that's exactly it, right? Sean was talking about the social aspect of entrepreneurship. When you put people together, happen. George was talking about how it's a contagious attitude, and the more people who have it you're exposed to, the more likely you are to catch it, so to speak. And then the more ideas you're exposed to, the more you read about it, the more videos you watch, the more just things that you're aware of, the more likely you are to catch on and develop that entrepreneurial spirit. So one of the ideas that I've sort of come up with over the last couple of days since this discussion has started is, there's been this big sort of movement in sort of video education, Khan Academy and TED and Udacity and all these sites that are putting tons of content up online for interested people to take advantage of. Now, and also at Waterloo, we have sites that we go to every day. We're on JobMine every day. We're on Learn every day. Why don't we take advantage of these platforms and create one of these video repositories? One of the things that Professor Benny did in first year mechatronics was what he called the invention of the week. And for the invention of the week, a professor or someone in industry would come in with some little gizmo and just talk to the class about it. Well, we should record that video and put it online. Put it on Learn, put it on JobMine or something where everyone in the university community can see it. Another point that came up earlier this week is that something you see in first year, because developing that entrepreneurial spirit, being exposed to these ideas and developing these attitudes takes time, something you see in first year doesn't necessarily have the same effect on you as it would 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line. And so if it's saved on the website, you can, 3 years later, you can say, hey, I remember something cool from first year. You can look up the video and you can watch it again. You can be really inspired this time because it's still there. Talking to people like Mike and Pat is really inspiring for people when you have that alumni connection, when it's someone who went through the exact same 5 years that you're in, it has more impact than someone else. And so, bring them into a first year classroom for 40 minutes to speak about their experience. Record the video and put it on this site, if they're okay with that, of course. So I think, that's the key. And how do you, obviously you're not going to get every undergrad engineer to a conference at the same time to network, but, how do you take advantage, how do you leverage the social aspects of the entrepreneur's attitude? How do you get people exposed to others who are entrepreneurs and their ideas? And, you put a social aspect in there so that, alumni people, Mike and Pat, are going on this website, they see a cool idea, they can comment on it and say, this is really awesome, you should go ahead with this, you should really pursue it. Fourth year projects, you have someone going around the symposium, films a 30-second spot of each project, it goes up there. You just get as much content from within the university community and the students, the alumni, the professors, you get as much content on there as you can. And you have, a sidebar that has links to relevant conferences and networking events. You just make it available. Could you work it into the curriculum? Maybe. But just the fact that it's there, I think, is a huge step in the right direction.
I can definitely echo Evan's sentiments. Just that after a full 5 years here at Waterloo, I still walk the halls, and every day there's some new project, technology, poster I read, and I had no idea that we even had people working on that area at Waterloo. Just last week, Professor Betty had shown a couple of us from mechatronics, some projects that he had in the lab here at Waterloo. Very, very cool projects and huge commercial potential of both of them. But again, after 5 years, we had no idea these things were even happening. So closing that gap, I think would be very beneficial. Just in the last couple of minutes here, I'd like to go over to Scott for a minute, just to highlight some of the discussion from the online forum and Twitter comments. And then after that, we'll very quickly go around and get some final thoughts to wrap up.
So first of all, there's some feedback to Evan's comments, and mostly agreeing with what he said there. There are also a few questions, and maybe we can get some small discussion about that. There seem to be a bunch of things going on campus, like velocity, all that stuff. How can we better coordinate those? And how can we bring those together and make it beneficial for engineering and beneficial for all students? So maybe one or two.
Sure. Any panel members here particularly eager, or audience members? Want to jump in on Scott's question there? Just really quick response. In the black shirt back there. Or followed by Sean or Sean.
Bud couldn't hear the question, but the question about how we coordinate all our entrepreneurship, all these fragments or these pieces that are in play. There's actually been a group that, including Bud and myself, that are looking at that, and also Rob McNaught, who's the director of CBET, Tim Jackson, who's our VP External, recognizing that we need a more coordinated approach to serve the students better and to leverage all the things that are going on. And Sandra's been involved in or Professor Betty's been involved in the meetings as well, where we've got to spend a bit of time taking inventory of all this stuff that's going on. There might be stuff that we don't even know that's going on that could somehow be wrapped into a better package and coordinated a little better. So do we know how we're going to coordinate that yet? No. Are we looking at it? Yes. We realize it's something we need to do if we're going to truly make the whole more than the sum of the parts.
It's back to Scott to summarize some of the discussion.
So mostly the comments online are agreeing with this. There are also a few suggestions about having courses that are related to entrepreneurship and the possibility of bonus marks and that type of discussion. I think this is natural for students to come up with ideas like this, but
some of them exist, you just need to find them. Econ 220. Introduction to Entrepreneurship.
I can echo also that Larry Smith sent his regards for tonight. He very much wanted to be a part of this and is extremely supportive of entrepreneurs at Waterloo. He's out of town right now, but he said essentially whatever needs to be done to increase entrepreneurship here, he wants to be a part of that and is more than willing to help out. So there's courses on campus for sure. All the discussion, comments, of course, are on Twitter feed. You can check out the hashtag or website. Just to wrap it up, I'd like to quickly have, in about 20, 30 seconds or less, for each of our panel members and a couple audience members, top 3 things you would like to see changed or you would change in respect to the undergraduate programs here at Waterloo and increasing entrepreneurship. So, top 3 things, and if you can summarize your thoughts and just give a little quick 20, 30-second response. Thank you. We can start with, any volunteers to start? Anyone? So, Evan, you want to start?
Sure. So, first year mechatronics engineering, I want to walk into the classroom. I want an alumni member who has started the business to be there. I want to hear the story of someone who was sitting in my shoes between 5 and 10 years ago and really succeeded and did something really cool. From day one, you want to set the stage, you want to create the culture of inspiration, and you want to start people along the path.
Okay, I'm going to go with one thing. So I'm going to go back to my MBET faculty, because they're all right there. And I'm going to say, we want more links with undergraduate, engineering undergraduates, and even all the other faculties are meant. We want more relationships on campus. What are you going to do to go back to your faculty and get them to contact us so we can get these links? Because we'll do our part if you do your part.
I think it'd be great if entrepreneurship was defined. Entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial spirit are 2 very different things, and a lot of people have one and are trying to expand it to the other. And just recognizing that everybody's going to be an entrepreneur, I think that's been said before. Another thing is full support for a lot of things that we don't recognize as entrepreneurial. So, for example, AFSA, the Accounting Students Association, they hosted a roundtable with energy that easily could be entrepreneurial, that easily could create discussion. But where is Velocity, where is CBET, whereas all these programs that really should be saying, hey, this is entrepreneurial. We're behind you every single way. So just recognizing these programs that don't recognize themselves that they're entrepreneurial, just giving them that support and that recognition.
So a couple of points that, some of which did fit into some of the previous points, some not so much. One, for a good example of a course that mixes engineering students with another background, not for an entrepreneurial end, but more on the arts course. I know it was introduced back in 2009. It was Rob Corbett's Fine Arts and something course. But it was a course for specifically engineers and art students to get together to make really cool, really crazy art projects. And some of the stuff we saw from that, they did a display. I think they've done one every year now. Typically it's over, it's not too far from here, in East Campus Hall. They do a display where you're forced to collaborate between engineering and art students. And some of the ideas from that are really cool. So for an example of how to do a collaborative program, I think that would be really great. Another point that hasn't really been touched on here that I think I definitely attribute to myself is on our own, the story of how ClearPath formed is making the connection between involvement in student teams and entrepreneurship. Because as a member of a student team, we had to fight tooth and nail to get and retain members, to keep people who were interested in what we did. And now, as an entrepreneurial company doing very similar stuff in a very similar resource-constrained, very aggressively timed environment, we have tons of interest in us. And I see the experiences as being very similar, and my experience on the robotics team was extremely formative of getting me into the spirit of being able to take on starting a company. And so I think making that connection is one that hasn't really been brought up here, but I see it. I know there are a lot of other companies, Cross-Chasm, 2G Robotics, Very Own Labs, all of whom have members who are deeply involved in student teams. And I think that connection, Bufferbox as well, and I think that connection needs to be emphasized a little more, because I know as a member of a student team, we would definitely have a little more interest.
Thank you, Pat. Now, Mike, return to the hot seat. Top 3 things you'd like to see done.
I just have one. So I think it's the co-op program is the gateway to entrepreneurship, because when you're in school, you're focused on school, and an educational institution is going to always struggle with trying to get people to pursue their entrepreneurial passions, because that means committing 100% of your time, which means not going to class. So focusing on co-op and career services and getting them to showcase velocity, or I think velocity is almost there, and having a forum that every engineering student knows that every co-op term there's a pitch competition, and students, I don't know how many groups you decide upon, but get a certain amount of money to actually pursue their own idea and execute on something during their co-op term, and that actually being showcased. And when engineering students walk in the hallways, seeing the people who won whatever that pitch competition was, makes them stand out, and they say, those are the guys that are going to be the next Apple or whatever. So I think that link to co-op and career services, because I think co-op and career services is getting old, and they need to continue to innovate, and I think they're going to do that by getting a closer connection with velocity.
Good, but same question, perfect world, unconstrained, what are the top 2 or 3 things you'd like to see happen?
Well, I'm going to be pale in comparison to what Mike just said, because I totally agree with him. So having I think he was reading my notes actually.
These are Bud's notes.
2/3. Just to add though, I totally would echo everything Mike said. The one thing that I would add to it though is that what we as an institution have to do is we have to put more time availability into the curriculum so that students can, because entrepreneurship takes time, innovation takes time, and that sort of thing. We've got to have those time opportunities, whether it's in the academic side or frankly on the co-op side, where students can use that time to become entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. So I know we have quite a few hands up in the audience. What I would like to do instead is to invite everybody here in the audience to post your top 3 things you would like to see changed to our Twitter hashtag. We are going to be publishing notes from tonight, so Lindsay is taking notes that will be sent out to everybody who registered today. The discussion will continue online, so via the Twitter hashtag, and we'll also email everybody and send you updates as to what's going on. We would welcome any input afterwards. Speak to George, Adlai,